Nice. Yeah.
That made him.
Because I didn't know about Koa.
Yeah. Well, how did you find out about it?
Honestly, it was somebody mentioned you got to check it out, and then I clicked. I had to find where it was, and then it was a cool photo environment on Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. See,
Might have been you.
Okay, well, it was me. No, I'm just kidding.
Hello, everyone. We're back, and we have a special guest today. We have Mattison Heatherly. She's the founder of City Social, and she is. And let me make sure that I tell everybody how you spell your name: MattisonHeatherly. She's most active on Instagram, so you can go check her out. She is the 2023 Columbia, South Carolina ambassador, known for having the inside scoop on all things food and drink across Columbia. So welcome to Columbia's hottest and fastest growing podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So tell us how you got into this, because this sounds like a cool job, probably a dream job for a lot of people.
It really is. And that was the whole point around creating this job, was I wanted to enjoy what I was doing, and saw kind of a gap in the market whenever I moved into Columbia about 5 years ago. Long story, probably not short because I am very long-winded, but I was working for a global IT company doing consulting and software implementations for about 6 years. And that's what I went to school for. I had a business degree in management information systems, which is like business degree with the IT specification. Thought that's what I wanted to do, got into it, and was just like, this isn't me. Like, there was just something, kind of like missing. So started researching, thought, I wanted to do more of a marketing front, wanted to do something that interested me, started a little side blog doing restaurant reviews. And I was actually traveling for my corporate job weekly. So anytime I went to a different city, I was like, okay, where's the best place to go eat? And realized that, okay, this is cool. When I got to Columbia, did the same thing, hit the ground running. Where's the best places to go eat? And I just realized that from a social media aspect, there wasn't a vibrant scene for the restaurants. And same thing, like with my IT background, like you would click on, you'd hear word of mouth, go eat so-and-so, you're at this place, and you'd click on their page and they would have a Facebook page for their website, which is like a huge pet peeve of mine.
Right.
I think everybody's like stepped up their game in the last 5 years, but you click on a Facebook page and you're like, where's the menu? Where's the photos? Like what's the vibe? So creating that brand around a restaurant where you can see everything online, like what you're getting into before you ever go. So that's kind of how it all started.
And are you really techie then?
Yes and no. I used to be more techie, like
video games.
No, not so much that. My brothers are. My brothers were into that kind of stuff. But I was more like visual, like just played around with, like Adobe Photoshop and stuff. Like that was probably the first software I ever asked my dad to buy. I was like, I want Photoshop for Christmas. And he's like, okay. And just, self-taught, that kind of stuff. Cool. So.
And what was your first place that you ever reviewed? Do you remember that?
Oh, honestly, it was probably in Waco. So I went to Baylor, which is in Waco, Texas, and their food scene, you're in college, so you're going to all the cheap eats and stuff. But I think that was probably one of my first blogs that I did, was just like cheap eats in Waco. And it's still up there today. It's probably a little outdated now, but because I haven't been there in 5 years, but.
Waco. Talk about Waco a little bit, because that's a really well-known city.
It is,
for the controversy around the cult that went on there, and then also I think there's a flipping
Joanna
show that
Gaines
happens in there.
Yeah. Everybody loves Chip and Joanna, which I do too. They're great people too, especially around the university. So I'm from a small town in West Texas where there was nothing, if I'm being honest, other than
there was guns.
There was high school football and the oil field. I'm actually from the town where they filmed Friday Night Lights.
No way.
Odessa, Texas. Cool. Yeah. So that's.
What was it like that?
Kind of. I mean, we weren't as good as they were back in the 80s though. Like the guys that were, taking over high school football was more like Dallas, Houston, Austin, those bigger cities. But back in the day, yes. And my mom went to that high school, Permian. Anyway, I I forgot what the question was. Sorry.
No, we were just talking about Waco.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Waco. So the university. I went to Baylor. Waco's a great town. Like it has blown up since Chip and Joanna's show, or since Fixer Upper really put a spotlight on Waco. Like there are people that will bring charter buses in to come to
Like touristy, like making it.
Yes, yeah, big time. So, but it was a great place to live for about 4 years for school.
Is it similar to Columbia, like the setup with like a university and that kind of feel?
Yeah, there's definitely a bubble around the university a little bit more in Waco. We called it the Baylor bubble, but I would say similar vibe. You know, there's just enough to do to keep you entertained. There's good food. There's sports. For like Baylor women's basketball was great whenever I was there, which I know is the Gamecock women's basketball is great here now, so that's kind of cool. And so everybody kind of rallies around the school, and you're close. You kind of have that middle ground too, from like Dallas and Austin, like we have from Charleston to the mountains. So
nice. So being in tech, what's your go-to computer? Are you an Apple or a Android?
I am an Apple girl.
Okay,
just especially now going into more like we have so many just like files, photos, graphics, that kind of stuff that we're sharing back and forth. Like AirDrop is just such an easy tool to go between devices, and then having like shared, iCloud between clients and myself. So yeah, I'm an Apple girl.
Nice. What's a day in the life look like for you? Like kind of walk us through what your day would be, or even the week. Like I'm curious about how you just go basically to restaurants and reach out that way to set up shoots, or what is that?
Yeah. So every week is different. It really just depends. So, one of the biggest pieces is having the content that we need to use for their pages, whether that's social media or websites or advertising, different things like that. So, a typical week is, meetings, doing strategy sessions, like what do we have coming up for this restaurant, whether that's an internal meeting or with the client. So right now I'm working with like 11 restaurants in town.
Nice.
So doing social media and public relations. And so getting content, meeting about what our content needs are and or strategy that's coming up, pitching them to local media. Some of our clients, we pitch out to more national media, depending on, what our goals are for them. Then having the actual photo shoots nowadays, along with video, because reels are such a big thing. Right. So you got to get the photos and then you got to get the video, and then scheduling a lot of content, writing the captions, planning out the content calendar. And another big part of my job too is just networking. Yeah. Going and eating at these restaurants. That's how I've built a lot of my client list, is just going and supporting a business, and they're like, hey, we actually would love to work with you. So that's a pretty cool part of the job too.
Are you allowed to say the clients that you have?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious who that is.
Okay. So, and I hope I don't forget anybody, but my first client ever was Koa Agavaria in the Vista. So if you haven't been there, they're fantastic. They were one that did not have a website, and I just kind of went to them and was like, hey, I'm your target demo, and I want to see what you guys had to offer. And it took me like a year to go eat there because I never saw a menu, they didn't really have a social presence, but I kept hearing people like, oh, you got to go to Koa. Yeah. So I've been working with them since 2019. Village Idiot Pizza is another iconic, Columbia landmark. Brian and Kelly are fantastic people. Drake's Duckin' has been around since 1907. It is a fried chicken joint on Main Street. So we have a very vast range of clients, from, fine dining to fried chicken joint, and pizza. Yeah. Pita's on Taylor Street, Duke's Pad Thai over in Casey. Just started working with Smoked on Main Street, which is one of the newer upscale restaurants in town. I know I have 2 restaurants in Camden that are affiliated with Koa. It's Masa and Salud. I know I'm forgetting somebody.
We'll have to connect you with Javier up at Ratio. Have you been up there yet?
I have, yeah. I've met Javier a bunch of times. Yeah, he's great. I think he has somebody internal that does his marketing. But
are there any places that you're hunting down right now that you really want to do their stuff?
A lot of times it's pretty organic how it comes to be, but in the beginning it was hustle. Like I would be like stalking the pages of like what's coming to Columbia, like how to Google or on, like coming to Columbia. It was just, for upcoming restaurants, or, I'd be driving down the street and see construction. And I'm like, okay, what is that? Is it going to be a restaurant? And now things are coming more to me, just having built that reputation of, great success for my clients, but also, just kind of having that name that like I work with restaurants, having like niching down, like there's value in that. So,
and the restaurant owners I always think are probably a little eccentric, especially ones who maybe started out as a chef or they just love food.
Yeah.
And then don't have all the business background behind it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what the meetings look like, or if you're always meeting at their place and eating there, or if they're like, all right, we're going to go meet somewhere else.
Yeah. So everyone's so different. I just remembered one I forgotten. It's Terra over in West Columbia. They're fantastic.
I love Terra too.
Yeah, farm to table, they're great. So maybe we can splice that in. So they're all different. I think one of the things too, though, is like marketing is not on top of mind for them, which is, a huge value to be able to outsource. And everybody's just a little different. And some of the restaurateurs that I work with, like that's not their full-time job. They have other entities that they work with. Two of the guys at Drake Stuck In, they have full-time jobs, but they just saw the opportunity to be part of that piece of Columbia's history. And whenever it came up for sale from their previous owners, and they wanted to invest into the community and keep that legacy alive. So. But yeah, they're different. They're I mean, in a good way. Like they're creatives. They're kind of artsy. They're kind of all over the place. Sometimes it's just like they're have all these great ideas of what they could do, and sometimes we gotta rein it in.
Nice. What do you do all the photos? Like, are you the photography behind it, or? Sometimes
it depends on what the brand vibe is that we want to put out there. So I do more natural light photography. So some of our clients that kind of have a brighter, like pitas and Drake Stuck In and Duke's Pad Thai, they're more like of a lunch vibe. And so that's, how we present them online versus like Koa. We'll bring in a photographer that has that heavy contrast of the bright colors and the dark, I think that's a big part of like my branding and how I work with my clients is we want to represent visually like what it actually is like in person, so you can kind of get that idea of like, what do I even wear? I mean,
because I didn't know if like, if there's certain filters or things that you would shoot food and environment in, if that was like part of your methodologies, you have a certain style like that, but you're more so matching what the restaurant vibe is. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, filters on food is kind of hard sometimes too. So you don't want it to look too, I don't know, too much
done up.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for new restaurants? Like, what things should they make sure they have for the consumer to just, like you mentioned earlier, like they need a website or they need their menu? Because there's definitely things that I recall when I first moved here, I looked up what were the top 10 restaurants in Columbia, and I didn't even know what really popped up. Like there wasn't anything out there that I could really look through and find. And then even now when you click on a Google, and it's just frustrating, like where is the menu? Like just basic stuff like that. Do you have a list of things like right away when you go into a restaurant, you're like, we need to knock out, these 5 things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that any business, especially from a small business perspective, that they may not realize is by not having a website, you're missing out on that SEO of somebody going and searching best restaurants in Columbia or wherever you are, or whatever it may be that they're looking for, because it's not going to always pull from social media. So off the top of my head, first thing is a website. Great photography is important, and it doesn't always have to be professionally hired. Like if you have a really small budget, you can do great things with an iPhone and good lighting.
Right.
Another thing is the reaching out to the media. I mean, the media wants to support local businesses. Sure. So whether you have a publicist like me that's, doing that on your behalf, or if you are just sending someone like, hey, we're coming to Columbia, we're opening this restaurant, here's our concept. Like, people want to hear about that kind of thing, and they want to support you. And so I think that's from the very get-go is like getting your name out there and getting some buzz around your restaurant. And then prior to opening, I think, you know, giving your staff some time to get adjusted. I mean, I think another thing about Columbia is like we do want to support local, that sometimes, you know, that soft opening really overwhelms a restaurant and they're not ready. So I think, you know, giving your own team the most opportunity to succeed is really important too. And then yeah, go all out. Once they're ready, like open the doors and I hope the people flood in. But you know, when they're not ready, then it comes with bad reviews and just like it's kind of a downward spiral. But so yeah, I think
that's what I was wondering is how important is it to get reviews for restaurants, and how would a restaurant encourage? Because it's not one of those things that comes to mind where I should hop on Google right after a restaurant and give them a 5-star review.
Yeah.
Do you have any methodology where you're like, here's a good tip for restaurants to get more reviews or more people posting positive things? Because most of the time I feel like it's negative stuff that you see on there.
Right. I think people are always quicker to complain than they are to compliment, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I think just having that open communication too, especially with the social generation of like, if somebody posts on their own page, like, oh, we had a great time at such and such, like there's nothing wrong with sending them a DM and saying like, thank you so much. We were so glad to have you. Like, great to hear about your experience. We'd love for you to like leave us a Google review. I mean, all you can do is ask, but I think that's part of it. And same thing with Facebook, just engaging with your customers that are, you know, having like a positive experience. And then also same thing with the negative stuff. Like, you know, I highly encourage all of my clients to like read those reviews and do something about it. Don't just, you know, complain that you're getting bad reviews. Like clearly, which most of my clients don't get bad reviews, but every now and then there's always something that, you know, needs to be handled internally or, you know, you're always wanting to make it better for everybody.
Have you ever seen that? It's an Instagram reel where the guy says to his wife, like, hey, what do you want to eat tonight? And then she goes, whatever you choose, I'm fine with it. And then he goes, okay, let's go for Thai food. She's like, I just don't feel like Thai food. He's like, there's a great steak place. And she's like, I don't really want steak tonight. And then he goes, there's a great Italian place. And she goes, no, it's too many carbs. I don't want to go there tonight. And I think back to like my wife, when she wants to go for a once a week date night, I feel like it's a lot of pressure to find a restaurant. It always has to be like well thought out, and you got the reservation, and is it a new place, and did you find anything out about it beforehand and all that. So when your husband's deciding where to take you out on a night, I'm curious, where was the last place he took you? And is there a lot of pressure on him where you're like, oh no, I spend so much time here. Oh no, I know the owner and I don't want to go to that place. Or I love this place and I've been here 19 times and it's where I always want to go. And he's like, I can't go eat there again.
The good news is my husband is also a foodie like me. And so he really is open to anything as far as restaurants. And then my thing is I'll go and have a photo shoot somewhere and he'll see it. And he's like, oh, that sounds good for dinner like the next night. And I'm like, no, I was just there. Yeah. So, but normally my friends and my husband always put it on to me of where to choose to go, which is because they're like, you're the guru, like you should know everything. And I'm like, I think about this all day long. I'm looking at like pictures of food all day. Sometimes I can't make a decision, or I feel like the pressure is really high for me to like pick the best place for everyone.
You're just getting judged every bite they take.
Right. I'm like, does everybody like it? I hope they do, you know? But yeah, so, I mean, I think that's probably the biggest pressure is really me choosing.
Where was the last place you guys went on date night? Ooh. Can you disclose that?
Yeah, we actually went to Divino Rosso on Gervais Street just for like quick, fun little date night, and it was great. So yeah, I do feel I don't feel pressure from my clients to only go and eat there, but it's nice when you do. You kind of feel like you're at home.
Yeah, we just had the sommelier from a restaurant. It was a newer restaurant. They came from New York and just opened it up. Right on Main Street.
Know that. We should know it.
We'll let you know when it comes to our mind. But they would. It's interesting because she was here, she was talking about moving from New York to Columbia in 2020 or 2021.
Oh, was it Chelsea from Hampton
Yes,
Street Vineyard?
Hampton Street Vineyard.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Love them.
Yes. So as I was sitting there thinking about it, because we had a whole bunch of staff who were moving from California and moving all over the place during that time. So it was an interesting influx of all over the country coming to South Carolina.
Yeah.
Is there any restaurants that have opened during that time that you can think of? Hampton Street Vineyard, I know, was one of them, but it feels like the food scene is getting better in Columbia and has in the last 2 years.
It definitely is. I mean, Hampton Street Vineyard, I think my mind is like blocked on that because that's the first one I would have thought of too.
And Ratio is the other one that we know. Like Hampton Street Vineyard and Ratio are the two kind of new ones that we really like.
Yeah. I mean, Smoked opened during the pandemic. They were under like full renovations on Main Street. They gutted like two of those buildings and completely restored it. And it's awesome. If you haven't been there, the patio is just gorgeous, especially on a day like today.
Yep.
I'm trying to think who else. Divino Rosso did also transition from, they were in the building next door and ended up moving into the space where, not Craft and Draft, what's the other beer place that used to be in the Vista?
Beer place in the Vista? I can't think of it. I don't know.
I just went blank. Anyway, they took over that space and have had huge success there.
But we did have Kellen on. Do you know Kellen from Craft and Draft?
I have not met him, but I'm familiar with their
guy.
brand.
He'd be worth reaching out to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So are there any new big restaurants that you know are coming to Columbia or anything kind of behind the scenes that?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
And how do you get paid?
Yeah. So
Not to be too blunt, but
no, but I think that's a cool aspect of business. I mean, like you're in business to get paid and like do what you love to do, but also like you got to pay bills, right?
Yep.
So we have like a retainer structure based on just whatever types of services we're offering, like whether that's a social media package or a public relations package or just a one-off website. Like right now I'm doing a website for Il Giorgione, which is on Divine Street. They went under new ownership and just wanted like a refresh. And so that was kind of like a one-off, you know, we'll go in, take the get great photography, learn about their brand, you know, how they want to be portrayed online, and then set that up for them. Most of our clients are on like a 6 month to a year monthly retainer to, just because I think it takes a while to like put visually, you know, change a brand, whether, you know, if we're completely taking over their socials and, you know, they were going one direction and we're going to bring it back this way. It takes a while to build that traction. And then also, you know, just to get in the eye of the public in that way.
Yeah. It's interesting how careers and jobs are changing so much, because 15 years ago, this wasn't even a career.
Right.
And now you're creating your own career path. Basically, you're starting a business that there's not a lot of people to look up to. Do you have any mentors who are kind of guiding you through this?
Not really. I actually do listen to a lot of podcasts on just what other people in other cities are doing. You know, I would say it's not uncommon for Columbia, but there's not a lot of people here doing what I'm doing. And that's partly why I created this job, was because I couldn't find one here. And, you know, I love Columbia. I think there is great opportunities here, but in that aspect, I felt very limited. So we moved here for my husband's job. So followed his career. I was able to work remotely through my corporate job. And at one point I was just like, okay, I'm going to look for jobs and see how this goes. And like, there just really wasn't anything in what I was interested in. And I knew if I was going to move careers, I was like, I want to enjoy what I'm doing. And so I started this on the side and evolved it to where eventually turned into something much bigger than I even imagined.
Were more people reaching out to you during the pandemic? Like, was that a weird time where, like, restaurants just needed help, or was that a tougher time for publicists?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, you know, when everything shut down, you know, I mean, like, if one of our restaurants was closed, like, I wasn't charging them anything. I'm like, why would I market, you know, charge you guys for marketing when you're not even open? So, but after that, like, period of time, so I would say probably like end of 2020, early 2021, they were a lot of people started reaching out to me just saying like, we need someone that's communicating what we're doing in the restaurant, whether that's
The changes.
yeah,
and
the
all
changes
things,
like
yeah.
different hours and same thing with like website updates and their Google page, Google hours, like staying on top of those types of things that the public needed to be, aware of. And then thankfully in South Carolina, things kind of came back to normal faster than other places. Right. And, restaurants were allowed to open. And I mean, there for a while, it was kind of like, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that in a way that did help.
Yeah. Do you see yourself expanding into other industries as you get bigger and bigger, or do you like just kind of staying in the restaurant food and drink world?
I think just hospitality in general is probably where maybe could be headed, but I do think there's value in niching down, just being that person and having those contacts of, this food writer that I know that I can reach out to whenever we have a story or, I think when you get into too many different industries, you're not allowing yourself to, give as much value to your clients.
Are there food critics in Columbia? Like there are people that come in and rate restaurants and all that?
I would say on a smaller scale, not necessarily like, like the New York Times or anything like that. But we do have some writers in town that are great, and they're more about building like them up. Like talking about what the restaurant scene is doing, or this restaurateur, here's their story, or things like that, versus more of like a food critic, which I'm sure there are, especially nowadays. Like there's so many people that just have like their own Instagram that's reviewing, in their own way. They may not be a official food critic, but they're giving their opinions online, which is cool.
Do you do anything with food trucks?
I don't.
Would that be a world that you'd be into or no?
Yeah, I mean, like I think everybody has a cool story to tell in any industry, but I think food and drinks kind of special.
Yeah, nice.
So you mentioned podcasts. What are your top 3 podcasts that you're listening to?
Oh gosh,
besides Here for the Health of It.
For sure. I listen to him and her podcast with Skinny Confidential a lot, just because I like their stuff.
What is that about?
It's just kind of lifestyle. They bring in different experts in their industry. It's a husband and wife duo that they just kind of banter back and forth, talk about relevant things. They do a lot of health and skincare, and they have different like CEOs on, and they're just fun. I also like the Lady Gang, just for something light. If I'm in the gym and I just want to listen to a podcast, it's 3 girls that just talk about, again, just life.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, who would my next one be?
I think Brett listens to both of those.
Yeah.
Do you? Yeah. And then there's one called Hospitality Forward that I try to keep in the loop, just because it is very like in my industry. They interview different writers and food editors or magazine editors and things based out of New York City. And that's a little more niche for me.
Okay.
A little more work versus just like enjoyment,
It's
like
a good
driving
balance.
in the car. Yeah.
What's your go-to TV shows?
Ooh.
Bachelor?
No,
Really?
I'm not a Bachelor girl. I used to watch it just to like hang out with my friends on a Monday. And then I was like, I'm too busy for this. But
What about Gordon Ramsay? He's got a show, right?
The Food Network.
yeah, I am actually not super into those, which you would think that I would be.
Right.
You would think that I would be. But gosh, off the top of my head, right now we're watching Billions, which is more just like drama TV. Yeah, it's really good though. I mean, we watched Game of Thrones. I'm trying to think like that's like in the past, but like what are some of the top ones? I don't know. I can't. Y'all put me on the spot on that one.
You like intense TV shows, it sounds like, which I do too. I've seen all those myself.
Now in Columbia, where would you suggest somebody going on a first date? Like what would be a good restaurant for food first date? And then what would be a good restaurant for like cocktail or drinks?
Oh yeah. And if you want to the backstory to this, Tom's first date
was at Koa.
At Koa.
Oh.
And that was
probably because of your photos that you posted.
I think that was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yes.
So it may have been you.
Nice.
Yeah.
That made him.
Because I didn't know about Koa.
Yeah. Well, how did you find out about it?
Honestly, it was somebody mentioned you got to check it out, and then I clicked. Like, I had to find where it was, and then it was a cool like photo environment on Google.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome. See,
might have been you.
okay, well, it was me. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So best first date, I would say Koa, other than the fact that it's kind of loud and dark, and you might be a little uncomfortable, but like have a couple margaritas and
I did.
I know this might sound weird, but like I would never take someone like to sushi or like a place where you could get like a burger because you can't talk.
Yes,
I did.
Good.
Yeah, like I had a lunch meeting over sushi one time, and it was like you took a bite and you're like, hold on, you're like chewing awkwardly, like just So I would say that's the one I would avoid. First date, what's the budget? I mean,
sky's the limit. Well, let's do sky's the limit, and then let's do like college. Let's do like 21-year-old Brett.
Cool. Okay. One of my favorite places is Lula Drake. It's just cute. It's intimate. You can get a great charcuterie board there if you are just eating and want to just kind of pick at food while you're talking to somebody, especially on a first date. College. I mean, Village Idiot, right?
Pizza, yeah.
Yeah, like it's casual. Just be yourself. Did I answer that question? I
could see that, yeah. That makes sense.
I didn't go to college.
We might turn this into a whole dating episode now.
Yeah. How to date.
What other advice do you have for a first date?
What's a good drink to order? Besides, like margarita is pretty standard, but is there anything like if a guy or
female
girl,
though?
Yeah, well, for a female, no. Margarita
Would
for
a margarita
male.
get a guy, or a guy get a margarita?
You don't want like a frozen margarita, but you want like a margarita on the rocks, salt.
Yeah.
Great, right?
Yeah. Are you talking about just at Koa or just in general?
No, in general. Like, what should a male order for a drink and female order?
I think a guy should get a beer or bourbon, probably.
That's very stereotypical.
Yep. Classic masculine energy over here.
But also, like, you're not wrong, I mean, my husband gets like an old fashioned like anywhere, and then he just switches to like straight bourbon because he's like, it's too sweet. Like, but he still wants to have that old fashioned. But I mean, I think whatever you like, honestly, like.
But there's there's got to be a wrong drink, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like if a guy orders like a frozen fruity cocktail.
Then he is a confident man,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
He is not afraid to be himself on that date.
Yeah.
But it could be a.
Or if they order, like if the woman orders the most expensive glass of wine on the menu, they just decide, whatever's most expensive, bring it out.
That's
Which I don't really know. When you go to places like that and you see they have a glass of wine that's $200, and then they have glasses of wine that are $9, are you looking at their spread, and does that say something about the restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you are. If it's a fine dining restaurant, they should have that versus like another like more casual establishment. They're like, okay, no one's gonna. Why even keep this on your shelf if
right?
Nobody's
I don't know.
Gonna
Maybe
buy
it looks good, or maybe not. I don't know.
Or you're like, we got to do a shoot, and we need to open this $200 bottle of wine for the photo shoot.
And you have to taste it.
You get to taste it.
We've actually never done that. At Koa, they do have some very, very expensive tequilas, and we have poured like just the agave syrup in a glass because it's like the same color. Like if it's an aged tequila, so we'll stage stuff like that. One time we lit a cocktail on fire with Purell. It was great.
Really?
But the photos were awesome. Yeah.
Really? Never tried that.
I do. Yeah. Do not try this at home. But. Yeah.
Now,
I forgot what your original question was. I'm sorry.
Is there a wrong drink? I feel like if say you start off with shots, like you can't do that.
Right. I think that's kind of a red flag unless you're
like
that's definitely a red.
Let's get around to shots.
Hey, nice to meet you.
For me.
Yeah.
What do you want?
I think maybe 1 round's acceptable.
Yeah.
If you're like, 3 rounds is no good.
Right.
But no. I love anything in a coupe glass, honestly.
What's a coupe glass?
Like the one that's like served up. It's like not on ice. It's kind of like a wide.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think
it's skinny at the bottom and then it gets wide.
Yeah. You've never seen a coupe glass?
Is that like a martini glass? or different?
It's like a martini, but it's rounded.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a coupe. So I don't know. Those are just like fun and feels kind of feminine.
Yeah, when Randy orders his daiquiris, don't they come in those?
I was going to just put my daiquiri in a whiskey drink so that it looks more manly.
Wait, doesn't Mark does that?
Mark Losby.
orders. Yeah, he orders a more feminine drink and asks for a different glass.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's not a
You know
it's
what
not a bad move.
I do love when there's a cocktail menu with a little like picture of the glass. Like Taza Kitchen does that every like for their seasonal cocktails, and it's just fun because sometimes you're like, I just want like a whiskey, like something in a rocks glass, like just like fits your mood, which I think is cool with restaurants. You
Ice
go out
cubes
for your mood.
Yeah, ice cubes are important too, I think.
Yes, like a big rock, it like sets the tone.
Yep.
It's fancier than just ice. Yeah.
Now tell us about you becoming Columbia SC ambassador.
Yeah.
How does that come about, and like what does that look like for 2023 for you?
Right. So Experience Columbia SC is our like tourism bureau for the city. And every year they pick 4 ambassadors to basically just talk about Columbia and like be a cheerleader for our city, which is really cool. So we'll, do different interviews, do our own content for their pages. So their handle's just Columbia SC. So, they have quite a few people that are looking to them for whether that's they're coming into town or, somebody that's just moved here, or even people that have been here for a while. Like I stay in the loop with their Instagram all the time of like what they're posting. Yeah. So we just really get to talk about Columbia. We go to some different events throughout the year, and we're on the website. I'll get to write like a blog of like what my ideal weekend in Columbia would look like.
Nice.
And share that from our perspective.
Is it appointed? Is that how you get it? Or is it
you are asked to do it. Mm-hmm.
By the owners of the tourism site?
Yes. Yeah. I think they're like marketing team, and they're always kind of looking for who would be a good ambassador for like the next year of just, people that are doing cool things in Columbia.
Nice. Is there any exclusive stuff that you get, like behind the scenes, VIP stuff, tickets to certain things? Yeah,
I know for sure we get to go to the Gervais Street Bridge dinner with Experience Columbia, so we'll have a table, and they're since they only have 4 people per year, they, once you're an ambassador, you're kind of always an ambassador. So like just last week we had a happy hour event that all of the past year ambassadors came to meet the new ones, and just like, it's a great opportunity to network and meet people and just cheer on Columbia.
And who are the other ones? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, for this year or just
for this year?
I was going to say I can't list all of them probably.
Are they all in the same kind of bubble that you're in?
No, so they do a really good job of diversifying. Someone in the arts versus someone that's more outdoorsy. Whereas like I'm food and drink. Like this year we have John Scherer, who is the director of Historic Columbia. So, that historic preservation side of things, like Historic Columbia has their own organization for like tours and different things that are going around with historic properties. Bianca Crawford has her own agency, and I think she also has a podcast. I'm going to say his name wrong, but like
he's coming on the show. I think I know you're talking.
I can't say it. Marihuka with the SC Philharmonic. Yes. Y'all, I apologize. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so he's, obviously in that side of things, and very experienced in music and things like that. So very, pretty diverse group this year.
Cool. Nice. Who do you think we should have on our podcast next? What's the up and comer that
who's the coolest people
on the in with?
Oh my gosh. Wow. I can't offend anybody. So I don't want to narrow that down to just a few. I mean, honestly, any of my clients I think are doing great things. Like anyone in the restaurant space I think deserves some kind of spotlight of what they're doing for Columbia. Because I mean, if you really think about bringing people into our city, not and, you know, to be able to serve the locals, like one of the first things you look at when you're going to a town is where do we go eat and drink? Like,
Right.
what is there to do? And then you kind of, at least I like kind of build my trip around that. I'm like, all right, we have reservations. And then like, what do we want to plan aside from that? You know? So I think anyone in the hospitality space is really cool to spotlight. Rita and Marcus over at Hotel Trundle are doing cool things from
Heard that.
a boutique hotel. They're all about like hyper focused, having a local experience for guests in their hotel,
Yeah.
which, you know, there are not very, I think there's one other boutique hotel in Columbia. So
I think you stayed there, right?
I did. It was awesome. And we just like, we did like a staycation where we did one of their packages, which was the Hampton Street Vineyard,
Oh, cool.
wine tasting, that whole thing. They have different things too, where you could go learn from a chef. Like they
Yeah.
did have a really cool local experience that we did.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian and Kelly over at Village Idiot, they met at Village Idiot in the 90s and then now they own it. So I think like they just have a cool story, and they've been in Columbia for a while. They've probably seen it all.
Back in the day, you could meet people at a pizza place, and that's who you
Yeah.
marry. These days, it's just all on the internet.
Yeah.
People in pizza places don't even look at each other anymore, I don't think.
Did you meet your husband on the internet or just at school?
No, we actually met on spring break.
Oh, really?
Which, like, that's going to take a whole nother episode.
Yeah,
Oh my
let's just touch on it quick.
Because he's from Tennessee. That's right.
He's from North Carolina, went to school in Tennessee. I went to Baylor from Texas, you know, very
Yeah.
far apart from each other.
And
so.
where was it? What city?
What city?
Destin, Florida.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah.
Real nice.
And did he have a line or something that?
I think
Caught
I'm
your
gonna
eye.
envision you guys were on the beach. He kind of threw a football. It landed next to you.
All right. Well, I'm gonna change my story now because that sounds great. No,
or you were at a foam party. That's also a good one.
actually, we were both the DDs for our groups of friends that night. So we were at a bar.
Wow.
And, you know, like this is before Uber, like we
Mhm.
didn't want to like have to call a taxi. So like spring break, you had like, you know, a group of 8 friends,
Gotta
like
pick somebody,
one
yeah.
person had to DD every night. And that was our night. And we just ended up,
just having real conversations.
yeah. And
Nice.
then we hung out on the beach the next day and went our separate ways. And a month later, he flew out to Texas to see me. And yeah, that was like 10 years ago. Here we are.
Wow.
When did you guys go Facebook official? Pretty quick.
Oh gosh, it was a
was a
while.
while, huh?
Probably like summer. He came out to see me, then I went out to see him, and yeah.
Nice. So if listeners are looking for, I love how we just jump around.
Felt like
Just
reel
a
it
quick
back.
transition from that one.
Just great transitions, good lead ups. If listeners are looking for just restaurants to take people in general, does your site kind of review a bunch that they can go onto your site as like a one-stop shop? Or is it more still targeted to the like 11 restaurants that you're working with?
Yeah, so I had kind of mentioned early on that I started with just like a food blog. So I
Mhm.
do have like a Columbia restaurant guide on my personal page. But from a city social perspective, I mean, any of our clients are fantastic. So it really just depends on what you're in the mood for. Like I said earlier, we have a vast range from like hole in the wall fried chicken joint to like quick Thai food to fine dining and, you know, great cocktails and that kind of thing. So, I mean, I would recommend any of our clients, and I've been lucky enough to be able to be selective with who I work with. So I can truly honestly say like they're all fantastic.
Nice.
So yeah, any of those. And then also you can always just DM me if you're like, hey, I'm looking for this. Like, do you know of a place? Like I love helping people.
Yeah.
But don't ask me like, where's the best place to go? Because I'm
Right.
like, for what? You know,
Right,
like,
yep.
what are you looking for? What's your budget? Like, give me an
Yeah.
example. So
That's good. You almost should have like a little questionnaire people could kind of fill out. Like, here's my budget. Here's
yeah,
the vibe. Here's then, because I'm thinking Valentine's coming up.
yeah.
What's a good Valentine's spot?
Well, I would say if you don't have your reservation now, you're
Not
probably
happening.
a little behind. But then there are places in town that like don't take reservations too. Or if you want to go prior to, I guess it's a Tuesday this year, so the next week. But yeah, again, what's your budget? What's
Yeah.
your vibe? No,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I love Lula Drake. They're not even one of my clients, but they're one of my favorite places to just go on a date night. And you've got Main Street right there, so like you could do anything. You could spend a whole day on Main Street, which is really cool. Get ice cream, go bowling, go to a movie, go hit golf balls. I mean, it's all there.
So tell us again, kind of where to find you and how you like people to reach out to you. If it's someone who wants to find food, they can DM you. If it's a restaurant that wants
To work
you
with
to
you.
work with you, do they just send you a DM as well?
Yeah, I actually have a form on my website. It's kind of just an inquiry form for potential business. Or, I mean, if you know my email, I can give it out. But as far as connecting with me, my Instagram handle is @Mattison Heatherly. My business handle is City Social Co. And website citysocialco.com. And yeah, I'm around. So send me a DM, ask me questions. I'm all about helping people find a great place to eat, or also to, showcase your restaurant in a better way online.
Great. We've only had, I think, 5 people give out their personal cell phone number.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I will not
You
be
don't
doing
have
that
to. You don't
today.
have to
Sorry.
do that. It's always a shock to us. All right. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you for being on the show. Go check her out.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Here
We're here for the health of it.
for the health of it.